Ladies and gentlemen, another day, another Democratic congressperson getting indicted or investigated for bribery and other schemes. The difference between, for example, Bob Menendez or Hunter Biden and Donald Trump is that Donald Trump said something mean, and so they now view that as a crime. Senator Menendez, Hunter, Joe, our president, and others within the Democratic Party raked in hundreds of millions of dollars or engaged in graft and bribery schemes. And instead of really investigating Democratic politicians, they accused Trump of everything they're guilty of. That's another story altogether. You can dislike Trump all you like. You can say that he's mean and he's horrible, he's a bad human being, but he doesn't do the things that Democrats get away with. Trump was a billionaire before running for politics. He didn't need money. We'll get into Boss Tweed and Tammany Hall. I'll give you a tiny little history lesson in a couple of minutes, but hit subscribe to this channel right now. Thank God a lot of great things are taking place for me, ladies and gentlemen. And so starting October 1st, I'll have a whole lot more in terms of content every day, at least 3 to 4, and live streams daily, if not daily, every other day. But, and we'll do interviews. It'll be wonderful. But hit subscribe to this channel right now. This is from the Department of Justice. U.S. Senator Bob Menendez, his wife, and 3 New Jersey businessmen charged with bribery offenses. Now, and by the way, if you want to hit subscribe, also, my Patreon is below. The super thanks is below next to the like and the share buttons. And share this segment everywhere. Robert Menendez allegedly agreed to use his office official position to benefit a number of people, a foreign government, for hundreds of thousands of dollars of bribes to Menendez and his wife, which included gold bars, cash, and a luxury convertible. So it's interesting. They're going after Senator Bob Menendez, but what do you think Hunter was getting paid for? Okay, so we have Chuck Grassley obtaining all the information from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. They're giving money to Hunter and Senator Menendez and Joe, our wonderful president, mashed potato brains, and others, Bill and Hillary and their foundation, because they can't stuff the money in their pockets. So a conduit is a philanthropic organization, for example, or they'll use a variety of different schemes in politics to enrich themselves. Trump was a billionaire. For example, he sold hotels, real estate, The Apprentice, casinos. He was in business. His business was capitalism. Now, Democrats, if you want to look, and that's why you should hit subscribe to this channel, ladies and gentlemen, Boss Tweed started this off in the late 1800s. They were making millions of dollars. The corrupt Tweed ring was raking in millions of dollars. This is in the late 1800s. Okay, from graft. 13 million, for example, 50 to 200 million dollars in corrupt deals. Okay, so Boss Tweed, it's right here, down here. So Tweed owned the extravagant Fifth Avenue mansion in a state in Connecticut, was giving lavish parties and weddings, owned a diamond jewelry worth tens of thousands of dollars. In total, the Tweed ring brought in an estimated 50 to 200 million dollars in corrupt money. And so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You can look. He was also indicted for 200 crimes here. So Boss Tweed, the late 1800s, Boss Tweed was arrested in October of 1871 and indicted shortly thereafter. He was tried in 1873. Eventually found guilty of more than 200 crimes, including forgery and larceny. He was sentenced to 12 years in prison. He was a Democrat, ladies and gentlemen, and he worked within the Tammany Hall machine. So there's Boss Tweed, and you can just look. The Democrats have not changed, ladies and gentlemen. They are who they are. You can say whatever you'd like about Trump. Oh, my God, he tore up the Constitution. None of it's true, by the way. If a person says they don't like Trump's personality and leaves it at that, I respect that individual. If they say they don't like his policies, well, we had record low poverty with Trump. That's a fact. We had record highs in household median income with Trump. That's a fact. He brought home Americans from never-ending military conflict. That's a fact. He had the Doha Agreement, Abraham Accords, first president to step foot in North Korea. If you don't like those things, then fine. Say you don't like those things and leave it at that. When you try to compare any alleged corruption with Trump to the history, the 200 plus, the 150 or so plus year history of corruption within the Democratic Party, starting with Tammany Hall. So you can look, but the late 1850s, Tweed has ascended through a variety of local offices, and American cities which a political party and a boss ran a major city. In New York, Tammany Hall was the organization that controlled the Democratic Party and most of the votes. Okay, we get back to, really what Senator Menendez did, it fits a pattern of behavior. He was indicted for other crimes, alleged crimes as well. And so he is one of the more corrupt politicians. He's been one of the more corrupt politicians, but he's within the Democratic Party. And you have media, almost all of media is an extension. Now, Grassley obtains and releases Federal Bureau of Investigation records. What Hunter did with his laptop, and it's interesting because the Washington Post and New York Times and CNN and MSNBC journalists, quote-unquote journalists, say, well, there's no evidence. There's not only a plethora of evidence showing that Hunter obtained money for essentially bribery schemes or within graft and bribery schemes, there are emails. Okay, so with Menendez, there might be emails, or there might be some there's a money trail, obviously, but you don't have I'm not sure if you have a laptop. Okay, with the Bidens, you have an actual laptop. With Clinton's, you have an actual servers siphoning classified data. You can't do that within the U.S. government. It is impossible to siphon classified data onto servers. Okay, but Democrats get away with that. And so there's zero suspicion with Democrats. They're accusing Trump of everything under the sun. All of these, let's say he's convicted, it'll be overturned. All of them will be overturned, whether there's a conviction in New York or D.C. Or in Georgia. I don't think there will be at all in Florida because president has the power to declassify. Also, Florida is basically a red state now. And so, but if there are convictions, all of these convictions will be overturned by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court overturns corruption convictions all the time. Okay, they do so when there's a hint of politics involved, or when they know, like for example, Jack Smith is 0-2 in major cases. One of the top cases was of Jack Smith was overturned by the Supreme Court, the Virginia governor in 2016. So when Democrats go after political rivals, it oftentimes or sometimes gets to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court knows exactly what's taking place, even the liberal justices, and they overturn any conviction. Okay? You might say, well, this is Democrats being transparent. And by the way, the Republican Party, I like Donald Trump. I'm not necessarily saying I love the Republic. I'm not affiliated with the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. I like any person, whether it's Trump or Tulsi Gabbard or RFK Jr., that wants to bring Americans home from never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts. Okay, so I don't want any Americans to be sent to endless military involvements. Okay, and I want a great economy. We had record highs in household median income and a record low in poverty with Trump. Okay, we didn't have the inflation and we didn't have the high interest rates combating the inflation that primarily Democrats caused with their completely apoplectic response to you-know-what years back by shutting down economies. But here you have money. You have more evidence with Hunter than you do Bob Menendez. Okay, so if you think that Democrats, what they do is they pick and choose. And there's just too much corruption. Sometimes there's just too much corruption. So you'll have like Anthony Weiner or Bob Menendez. It's too much for the Democratic Party and media to sweep under the rug. So then these people get indicted and then they go to prison. But with Trump, it's like not only can they not prove anything that he did, the indictments read like an MSNBC pundit wrote them. The indictments for Bob Menendez and the eventual indictment for Hunter pertaining to bribery will simply list the money trail, simply list the emails asking for access and for influence. And so you have a request for influence on behalf of people giving money to Democrats, something Trump does not have. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now.